Welcome to Conversations, and we have a very special guest with us, somebody that I've actually admired for a good 20 years of the time in living in Mississippi. We have the one and only Sam Haskell. Sam, it's good to see you. I was joking just a minute ago I was going to promote you to the former head of a cigarette company, but you're not. You were, of course, the head of worldwide television for not Philip Morris, William Morris.
That is correct,
and did an incredible job. Started in the mailroom, worked your way up, was able to work with just incredible people throughout your career. You transitioned from that job. Now you have got one of the coolest jobs in the world, I would think. You helping steer Miss America back, for some rocky waters and doing some great stuff. But at the end of the day, you're a Mississippi guy who remembers where he came from and has done a great job giving so much back to the state. So it's great to have this conversation.
I appreciate that, Marshall. I have tried to live a life that my mother would be proud of. My mother taught me and my brothers as little guys the importance of giving back and the importance of sharing your blessings. She used to say that a blessing is not a blessing unless it's shared, and that's something that has resonated with me since I was 6 years old, and I try to live that every day. And I lost my mother when I was 30 years old. She died of cancer, and my wife Mary picked up where she left off. So she keeps me on the straight and narrow in terms of understanding how to give back and the importance of giving back.
Your mom was incredible. She, she's in a Hall of Fame herself. Talk a little bit about her, because not only did she have incredible influence on your life, but she was, I think, ahead of her time. She was just incredibly strong.
Well, I mention on several occasions in my book, Promises I Made My Mother, which is basically a tribute to my mom, and the fact that it became a national bestseller is not a compliment to me, but a compliment to my mother. And I did it for my mother. I did it as a way to celebrate her life. It was very hard on our family to lose her. She was a beautiful person inside and out, and loved me and my brothers more than anything, loved the children of Northeast Mississippi, and especially in my hometown of Amory, so very much. She was Mississippi's first school nurse practitioner, and she worked as a school nurse in Amory for all the years that I was in high school and for many years thereafter. And people come up to me every time I'm in Amory and tell me a story of some child that she helped, and it always touches my heart. But the main three people she helped were me and my brothers, because she's put us on a path, helped us develop an infrastructure of how to be good. And I think that most people in their journeys want to be good. They just sometimes don't have the infrastructure through which to perform those kinds of services. But my mother provided an infrastructure of understanding and class and principles that my brothers and I could build our lives upon, and that's what we did. And I am just an example of what she wanted me to be.
I think it's very appropriate that you were delivered by a guy named Dr. Hope.
Yes.
I thought that was a great moment, because you honestly are very optimistic. You are very, and it's not, I don't think it's a pie in the sky kind of optimism. It's an optimism where you're saying this is going to happen, but I'm also going to make it happen. But there was a moment in your childhood when the cheerman arrived.
Right.
And that is just a fabulous story. And I think that set you on a course, didn't it?
It did indeed. I must share that I was my mother's third pregnancy. She had lost her first two babies in miscarriage. And Dr. Hope, her OBGYN in Mobile, Alabama, helped her after she became pregnant with me, and she almost lost me at 6 months, and he put her to bed and delivered me 3 weeks early on June 24th, 1955. So if you're doing your math,
you suffered a very traumatic birthday.
I had that 60th birthday, and I look in the mirror and I don't see 60.
I'm so proud of you for admitting it.
But I have to admit it, because the more I admit it in public, the easier it will be to say it when people go, "How old are you?" And I go,
"You get a discount now at Perkins."
But anyway, Dr. Hope got me here delivered safely. And my mother told me the story when I was 13, that upon hearing me cry for the first time, she pulled herself off the delivery table after almost a 24-hour delivery. I was a breech birth. And they did not do cesarean sections as often in 1955 as they do them today. And she had a rather difficult delivery with me, but the minute she heard me cry, she got on her knees and gave me back to God. And my entire life, she told me I was special, and that I had a special destiny, and that it was her job to help me attain that destiny. And that's why she was so strict on me. And I'm sure she told me at a time when I was feeling kind of big for my britches when I was 13. I mean, when I was 13, Marshall, I would look in the mirror and just go, yes. I just thought I was it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she was trying to bring me back down to a more normal ego capacity, and told me this story of my birth. And it really resonated with me, and it calmed that growing ego that a 13-year-old, might exhibit from time to time. And you're a father of boys.
I am.
And so you will see that when the big teeth come in, things start changing. And I think my mother knew what she was doing by calming me down. But the cheer story is one that set me on a path, because it taught me what it is to believe in something so much and to prepare for it so specifically that there's no way it won't happen. In 1965, when I was 10 years old, my favorite show on television was Bonanza. And I went to the Ponderosa with Ben Cartwright and the Cartwright Boys, Adam Hoss and Little Joe, every Sunday night on NBC, and it was my favorite television show. And during that show, Procter & Gamble developed a commercial campaign for Cheer laundry detergent. And they created what was known at that time as the Cheerman. And the Cheerman was dressed in a suit that was in the same colors on the Cheer box, and he would announce to camera that, I'm coming to your town, America, and if you use Cheer, I'm going to give you $10. Well, I was absolutely sure that he was coming to Amory, Mississippi.
Why wouldn't he?
Not just Amory, but to 405 South 3rd Street in Amory, where I lived as a child. So I wasn't content that my mother used Cheer, which was great.
Yeah.
So I went down to the local print shop, and I bought all this giant poster board and paints and glitter, and I made a giant Cheer poster and put it in my front yard, because people had to know where to come.
Right.
When the Cheerman got to town, he had to know where to go. It became the joke of all jokes in town. Even my father would make fun of me. Oh, Sammy. I was Sammy then. My grandfather was Big Sam. My father was Little Sam, and I was Sammy. I was the third. And he said, Sammy, bring out your cheer sign. But my mother would just look him right in the eye and say, if the child believes the Cheerman is coming, then the Cheerman is coming. Well, after a couple of rainstorms in northeast Mississippi, the Cheer sign started running, and it got folded up and put under my bed and then into my closet. A year later, it's my brother Jamie's birthday, Friday before Labor Day of 1966. And we're playing football in the yard. My father's grilling burgers. My mother's working on the cake inside. And down the street, down 3rd Street in Amory, we hear, cheer, cheer, cheer is here, cheer. And we all run down to the curb, and coming down the street is the little Cheer car. Well, he had to be coming to my house. I didn't even stop to think that he might stop somewhere else. So I ran inside. Kids are running into my mother's laundry room, ripping her Cheer box apart, taking out the box top, the bottom top, pieces of the sides, powder flying everywhere. And I go into my closet and get my sign and walk out on my front porch and hold up my giant faded running Cheer sign from the year before. The man pulls up, stops in front of our house, points at me and says, you get the $10.
Wow.
My father was apoplectic. How is this possible? This kid has been waiting for you for 18 months. How is this possible? Well, sir, you see, we have this new thing called a computer. Now remember, it's 1966, and a computer was the size of a refrigerator with blinking lights all over it, like something you'd see in a sci-fi movie. And he said, into that computer went the names and addresses of every registered voter in these United States. And the computer randomly selected 2 homes in every county and every state. And 405 South 3rd Street in Monroe County, Mississippi was kicked out of that computer. It's just taken us this long to get down here.
Unbelievable.
And that set me on a path, because the Cheerman came for me that day, but the Cheerman has come for me many days. And from a metaphorical point of view, the Cheerman can come for you and can come for your boys and your friends and anyone who's watching today, if you have the capacity to believe and to work hard to make what you want happen.
I think that was what's so important, is not only did you have this incredible belief, it was right here, but you also did the work to make it happen.
Right.
When you left Ole Miss and you went out to Hollywood, you loved Hollywood from the time you were young. You loved it, and you knew that you were going to do this someday. And you get out there, and it's not like they literally rolled out the red carpet for you saying, oh, well, thank God Sam Haskell's here. We're good. All right, finally, we can get to work.
Right.
You ended up in the mailroom.
In 1978, I graduated from Ole Miss, and had driven to California in a 1976 Grand Prix that was packed like a suitcase. And I wanted nothing more than to be in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And all the people I talked to said, well, you need to start in the mailroom of a major agency because that will help you create relationships and develop, your instincts as to what you want to do. So I was just determined that I had to be at the William Morris Agency because I'd heard Johnny Carson talk about it on The Tonight Show. And it was the only agency I knew of. And I started the interview process, and I was put into the mailroom in October 23rd, 1978 to be exact. And I was in there with all these wealthy sons of producers and network executives and movie producers. And I made a point to distinguish myself because they all had this attitude that it was just going to happen for them. And I became the best pencil sharpener, the best coffee maker, the best bagel toaster. Whatever I was asked to do, I was the best at it. And I passed them all in the process of moving up the ladder and became I became the assistant to the head of the television department within 9 months.
Wow.
And then a year after that, I was promoted to full agent. And a lot of those guys were still in the mailroom. So it just showed me, and I'd learned this as a little guy, hard work pays off. And I want to connect with your viewers today by simply saying, don't ever just sit and expect good things to happen.
Right.
God helps those who help themselves. And my mother would always say, stand in the light of God's grace and show people that you're real and work hard. And that's how it will happen. And that's how it's always happened for me. Nothing has ever been easy, but I've appreciated the efforts and the journey.
I think one of the really nice parts of your book is the Ford. And Ray Romano, who you used to represent, wrote the Ford. And I really, honestly, go buy the book as quick as you can, and just to read that and then your story. But Ray talks about that he was a little wary of you at first, because like here's this Southern talking guy who seems very nice, and of course in Hollywood everybody's sharks, but you have done that throughout your career. You've always done things in a kind and gracious way, and it's a skill set I guess we learn here in Mississippi. I'm not sure, but you've done it, and to me it's refreshing because it seems like we live in a mean world now, and the fact that you've been able to do things by taking the high road, that's a huge compliment.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think that Southern people tend to respond to other Southern people because they recognize a genuine, kind, humorous, connected personality.
Right.
But those who are not from the South sometimes can look at you sideways and go, are you real?
Right.
And if I've had that question once, I've had it 100 times. And what happens is that you have to just prove that you are real. And I think that Ray was skeptical of me at first. But he knew I was smart, and he knew I had his best interests at heart. And when we put together, packaged, and sold Everybody Loves Raymond, which is one of the shows that I'm probably most proud of in terms of looking at a career of accomplishments, I'm most proud of that show because it was so well presented every single week. And every single member of the cast won Emmys, and the show won several times. And I just was so proud of it. But our friendship, that of me and Ray, was based on business. But then once he discovered that I was real, it then became based on the connection of our personalities. And when it was time to choose someone to do the foreword to that book, there was no one else I wanted but Ray. And he wrote it, sent it to me before I sent it to my publisher, and I cried like a baby reading it because most comedians are kind of dark and brooding, and he just opened his heart and told how he really felt about me and how I had touched his life. And so I called him on the phone. I was going, I can't believe this. I appreciate it so much. And then he started crying, and his wife gets on the phone and goes, I've been married to this man for 25 years, and I've never seen him cry. What's going on here? It was this book, this forward.
I love you.
And then she read it and she cried. It was perfect.
At the moment, you were just on your hands and knees helping one of his daughters with the
He told that story.
That was just incredible.
Many times I was with him every Thursday night at the set for Everybody Loves Raymond. And there were long breaks, and sometimes they would rewrite scenes. And And we would have breaks, and I would go to his dressing room, and his wife and children were always there in the outer part of the dressing room. And one night, his daughter, Allie, was having trouble with her history homework, and history was my subject.
Yeah.
And so I was helping her with her homework, and he walked in and just couldn't believe it.
I think that was the point he must have realized. It's because this guy's a real human being.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But it was just a natural thing for me to sit with her and help her.
When you were Ole Miss, you managed to marry absolutely one of the meet and ended up marrying one of the most beautiful women in Mississippi, who of course was Miss Mississippi.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
And of course you were dabbling in the pageant world back then. Did you ever think when you were at Ole Miss that someday, well, you know what, I'll be helming Miss America?
It never crossed my mind ever. I did this job at Ole Miss because it was an important job to be the director of the Miss University of Mississippi pageant, and I took that and turned it into one of the biggest locals in the state.
Yeah.
And in my sophomore year at Ole Miss, Miss University was second runner-up to Miss Mississippi. In my junior year, Miss University was first runner-up to Miss Mississippi. And in my senior year, I thought, I got to win this thing this year, you know. So I had to try to recruit, you know, the right girls to come in to be in it who could win. And so I had one of the runners-up from Miss Tennessee, a runner-up from Arkansas, a top tenor at Miss Texas, who all were students at Ole Miss, because your residency is determined by where you go to school or where you live. Yeah. And if you are in school out of state, that's where you live. And Mary and I were dating. She was a freshman from Beaumont, Texas, and I was just wild about her. And I said, look, I'm going to be completely unavailable for the next 3 weeks, but if you enter Miss University, then we'll be together, and I'm sure because you can sing, you'll be in the top 10. And she was a Chi Omega, and the Chi Omegas unanimously voted on her the next night. Mary's got to represent Chi O in the Miss University pageant. So next thing you know, she's in Miss University. Next thing you know, she wins, and I'm going, oh my God, what if we don't make the top 10 at Miss Mississippi? You know, she's too young, she's this, she's that. And she walks off with Miss Mississippi, goes to Miss America, and Miss Ohio won. I'm still upset about that.
Yeah, I want to recount.
But it was a great experience for her, and it introduced me to the Miss America program. Now, after I got to Hollywood and was in the business of television, I would call the head of the Miss America pageant, and every year a new Miss America was chosen, I would volunteer for free to get her on the Tonight Show or the Today Show, or to do a commercial with her, or put her in some show we were doing, or a Bob Hope special, and they loved that. Yeah. And by 1984, they had asked me to come judge, so I came and judged it. And they were so happy with that that they asked me to come back and judge again in 1986. So as the years went by, you know, I stayed in touch, and Kathy Lee Gifford and Regis Philbin were clients of mine, and I put them into Miss America as the host for 10 years after Burt Parks had retired. And I knew them all, and Phyllis George, who was the 50th Miss America, was one of our best friends. And when I retired from William Morris, now, geez, 10 years ago, first call I get was from Phyllis George, Sam, ABC's just dropped our option on Miss America. We don't have a network. We need you. We need you. And I go, no. I'm going to lose 20 pounds and play more golf. No, I'm not going to. I can't do that. She said, you have to do it. You have to save us. And I said, okay, I'll do it 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year has become 10 years. And I took it from obscurity at country music television to a reality show at the Learning Channel, TLC, at Discovery. And it was during that time and through that reality show that we lowered our demographic to the average age viewer from age 59 to 37. And that's what got ABC's attention. And I was able to take it back, make a deal at ABC, and we are back.
We got back to Atlantic City.
We're back to Atlantic City. We left Las Vegas, negotiated a new deal to go to Atlantic City. ABC has been amazing. This year we had 7 million viewers, and
this year was a particularly strong year too. It really was good, and there was that moment you lit Twitter up. I got to give you credit. You nearly broke social media, but it was, I think, a moment that was a long time coming. You brought somebody back into the fold.
I did,
and it was something that nobody knew about really either.
No, they didn't. I kept it very much under wraps. Vanessa Williams has been a friend of mine for 32 years. We were friends at the time that she resigned the Miss America crown back in 1984. Right. She had been involved in a scandal with some photographs that were sold without her permission, and she had resigned the crown. And she was treated very badly by the organization at the time, and I always felt bad about it. And through our many years of friendship, you know, she was the first one to step up when I became the chairman of Miss America 10 years ago and wrote me a letter and congratulated me and said, maybe you can save it.
Yeah.
And Phyllis, you've got to save it. And I was doing everything I could. And I started talking to Vanessa about the possibility of coming back, and it was just too hurtful still. And her family had been hurt by the situation, and we just stayed friends. And about, I guess, December of last year, I had lunch with her, and I said, would you ever consider coming back for our 95th anniversary? And so we talked about it, and we talked about, I wanted her to perform and to just come back and let us celebrate the success of her life and career. I mean, she's probably the most famous and successful Miss America in our 95-year history. So through her manager, Brian Edwards, who's a good friend of mine, and through my friendship with Vanessa, we got her to come back. And I planned very quietly that I wanted to find a way to apologize to her for the way she was treated after her resignation. And I didn't put it in the script, and I didn't let anybody know. It was not in the monitor.
Oh, wow.
They just, I was going to come out and welcome her back after she performed this big number. And of course, when she walked out on stage to perform the number, and I also had her as head judge this year of the celebrity panel to choose Miss America. But after she finished, our host, Chris Harrison, came onto the runway and said, when we come back from commercial, we have a special message coming from Miss America's CEO, Sam Haskell. And the place was on its feet, screaming, deafening screams, just so thrilled she was there. And when we came back, I apologized to her and to her mother.
I have been a close friend to this beautiful and talented lady for 32 years. You have lived your life in grace and dignity, and never was it more evident than during the events of 1984 when you resigned. Though none of us currently in the organization were involved then, on behalf of today's organization, I want to apologize to you and to your mother, Miss Helen Williams. I want to apologize for anything that was said or done that made you feel any less the Miss America you are and the Miss America you always will be.
It's about doing the right thing again. And I felt that that was what needed to happen. And she just was so moved. Her mother, after it was over, fell into my arms and said, this has hurt me for 32 years. Thank you for doing that. And, every decision we make is not going to be accepted or rejected 100%. And I know that I have certain detractors who were confused or didn't understand why I felt the need to apologize to her, but it came from my heart, and I was in a position that I could make something right that had not been right. And I wanted to apologize for the way people acted after she did the classy thing and resigned.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it was really between you, the organization, and her.
Right.
And it happened right there on the stage.
And I did it live, and I did it looking into her eyes.
Yeah.
I did not have a monitor. I did not have a camera set up so that I would make sure I didn't forget anything. I just knew what I wanted to say.
And watching it, you could almost see her it was like she was healed right there on the stage. It was a very classy move on your part.
She called it brave.
Yeah.
And she told me right there on camera she loved me, and she thanked me for bringing Miss America back.
Yeah.
And that kind of validation is what keeps you going. There are many days when I question myself and I go, why am I doing this? Because you find so many obstacles in the path for anything that we do. But this one is particularly a difficult one because you're dealing with 52 state franchises and volunteers and people that are very passionate about why things should be done this way or that. And, I might not be the most beloved chairman and CEO, but I hope I'm the most respected. I had to make a lot of decisions to save this organization. It was almost bankrupt when I came into it.
You truly have brought it back from obscurity.
I did my best.
Yeah.
I did my best.
You've had a successful career. Mary has had a wonderfully successful career.
Yes.
Just in closing, I think probably y'all can look back and think, well, you know what? Truly one of our best projects we've ever worked on. You have got two incredible children. You've got incredible grandchildren. You know, as seeing your mom, how she raised you, and even some of the difficulties you had in your dad, you have to look back at your life and say, you know what, we did something right.
I really feel that my mother set me on a path that, as I said earlier, was picked up by Mary when I lost my mother. Mary is the heart and soul of our family. I could not be who I am or do what I do without her. Our journeys have taken us from small towns in Mississippi and Texas to the White House, to Buckingham Palace, and back again. But we love Mississippi. We love being a part of Mississippi, and we are ambassadors for Mississippi wherever we go. And it's because of what I learned at the knee of my mother. It's because of what Mary and I feel and believe is important in terms of what life is about. And I think about that thing my mother said to me about standing in the light of God's grace. God is a very big part of our lives. Our faith is so important, and standing in the light of His grace is what makes it all worthwhile.
Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
And that wraps up another edition of Conversations. Thank you very much, and join us next week.